for joining me on a quilting tale today. My name is Shaylin, and it's been a while since I've made a video, I think since early May, and part of the reason for that is I was frantically trying to finish a quilt to give as a gift before the end of the school year, and so I got that one done just in time, took off to do some quilt shop hopping in southern Washington, and then went to visit family out of state for a couple weeks. And when we returned that evening, our computer crashed. It's been a couple weeks in the shop, and we finally just bought a new computer and have been working to get things up and running on that again. So I haven't had a lot of time for making videos, but I have done some filming and have still been quilting and working on projects, and so I have lots of videos coming, and they hopefully won't take as long as it has been between my last and this one. But I thank you for your patience, and if you've been wondering where I am, that's what happened. So in today's video, I wanted to share that quilt that I made as a gift. Both my daughters had the same kindergarten teacher, and my youngest just wrapped up kindergarten, and so to show our appreciation to her, we thought it would be fun to make her a quilt. I contacted her daughter, who I had as a 5th grader many years ago, and asked her what kind of colors and motifs she liked, and she told me ocean themed was one of them. And so I selected a pattern called Storm at Sea. There are many patterns for this quilt. I ended up using Teresa from Down Under's foundation paper piece pattern, and I will link that in the description below. This quilt, if you follow the pattern exactly, will give you a 45 1/4 inch square quilt. I wanted to make a quilt that was larger and more rectangular to be a good lap size quilt that the recipient could just cuddle up with on the sofa after work. And so I ended up adding a border, and to make it a little fancier, I selected the Snail Trail foundation paper piecing papers from It's So Emma. These make 6-inch blocks, just to kind of mimic the ocean waves in the top and bottom border. And so in this video, I'll show a demonstration of how I used these as well. To go along with the ocean theme, I selected fabrics from Northcott. This line is called Sea Breeze. I loved it so much and want to make another quilt that is similar, and so I have extra fabric, and so that's how I'm showing it to you now, because I've already given the quilt. But here are some of the fabrics in that line. Let's see if I can, there we go. That's the coral one. It's kind of an aqua greenish blue color there. And then I love this one. To me it almost looks like you have a bird's eye view of dark ocean bottom down below, but it has a lot of the coral in it as well, just a more zoomed out look. And then another one of my favorites from this line is the sea glass. So that one's a little more blue. And then there's some more sandy colors. This one has some bubbles in it. You can see that there. And so, and there's more in the line. But these were the main ones that I used. There are other fabrics in this line, including sea turtles, which I used for the backing. There's a beautiful panel with some larger sea turtles also that I didn't use in this quilt, but the whole line, again, it's called Sea Breeze, is just very beautiful if you like those coastal oceany colors. Now I also used a couple colors from a line called Stonehenge, and this one almost reads as a solid, but it looks a little more textured when you look at it closely. So I used a darker sandy tan color and also a dark blue, a navy blue color for the border. So you'll see those in the quilt as well. I did end up using all those, so I don't have them to show, but again, those were from a line called Stonehenge. And then I used a bright white Bella Solid just to be a good contrast to all these deeper blues and aqua greens. And so I'm going to show you the process of making this quilt, just how I started foundation paper piecing it. You can see that come together. I did a more in-depth tutorial on foundation paper piecing not too long ago. I'll link it in the description, so if you want to see a more step-by-step breakdown of what I'm doing, I would recommend watching that video. I also wanted my daughters to sign the quilt in some of the blocks, and so I embroidered over their signatures, so you'll see that in this video, as well as the use of the snail trail papers. And then of course you'll get to see the final quilt at the end. I took it out to the ocean because it is, after all, called Storm at Sea, so I did a little photo shoot of it out by the water and just love those pictures. So I'll be sure to share what it looks like because I have already given it away and it was very well received, and I just love how the quilt looks. I actually would like to make another one for our home that's very similar, so that's why I have all that extra sea breeze fabric. So I hope you enjoy seeing this quilt come together, and I still have lots of video ideas coming up. I'm still working on the Farmer's Wife sampler quilt. You'll see more of those blocks come together. And I'm English paper piecing, still working on that project, the Hextravaganza quilt, and so I have a follow-up video with more tips as I've learned more things making this quilt. And of course I have some finishes to share with you, so I have a progress video coming, and then just some new things that I want to start making. So lots to look forward to. Thanks for coming back to my channel and liking and subscribing. Enjoy seeing the Storm at Sea quilt come together. A Storm at Sea quilt is made out of 3 basic shapes, and these are a digital printout that I got again from Teresa down under. And the shapes are this larger kind of square and a square and a square unit. And then you'll need a smaller square in a square unit. Now 2 fit on the page, so you're given 2 there. And then you have this diamond in a rectangle shape as well. So again, those 3 basic shapes, but to get as much out of the paper as you can, these ones are doubled. And so to help me organize the pieces and just prep them ahead of time, I made these little bags that had the shapes, and I use the numbers on them to help me number my templates that I'd use to cut out the fabric. So for example, this shape here, there's a square that I call number 1, so these are my number 1 squares, and then these little triangles 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all the same. So I traced one of those triangles, didn't even use a ruler because I just kind of rough cut at least a 1/4 inch around the shape, and that helps me cut out the fabric. So I just had all the fabric prepped ahead of time. This is just what's left over. This was from my rectangles here, and then this is what's left from the square and a square and a square unit. So you can see I have the longer triangles, and then the smaller triangles are tucked back here. And so I just cut out as many of these as I needed and cut out the fabric that I needed, and so making them went a lot quicker having everything prepped. So when you cut out, you want to cut out on this light line here, because you want that seam allowance when you sew your blocks together. So I'm going to go ahead and show you now just putting these together. I'm just going to do a kind of sped up montage so you can see some of the process, but I just wanted you to see how I organized getting this quilt ready. got the side borders on, and I just made them be flush with the top and bottom of the center of the quilt here, the big medallion. And so now I'm going to add more of the border on both ends of my snail trails to make them flush with the side borders. Here's the finished quilt. You can see I added another layer under the snail trail border just to make the quilt a bit longer. And you can see I used that sea breeze fabric throughout and some of that Stonehenge in the sandy medallion portion, as well as the binding of the quilt. You can also see I used kind of a motif of quilting that mimicked waves. I wanted it to be really swirly. So here's just a few close-ups of the quilt so you can see that quilting in detail. The backing, I put that sandy strip just so it didn't look like the turtles were running into each other when I pieced the backing. And there's that snail trail border. I made a video showing how I make labels like these using some of the selvage edges that have little quotes that I like. And then I also made a video showing how I gift quilts, and so here's what it looked like when I gave it to the recipient. And the rest is just that outdoor photo shoot I mentioned out by the water, so I'll just let you enjoy the rest. Thank you so much for watching.